Hello YouTube. Today we will be creating a very simple command system. This tutorial will probably be about as long as the Persona States one, and I haven't put out any new content lately until now because college has basically taken over my life. And any free time I have is spent working on a custom bot for someone. So I'm sorry if I seem a little spacey. I am very stressed and very busy. I'm surprised I managed to find the time today. So open up the bot if you haven't already, and then we will be starting in the on-chat message callback because in order to create a command system, we have to receive the command in the first place. So we need to check immediately to see if the callback was a chat message so that we don't interact with something like X user is typing, such as we discussed in the past tutorial. So what we need to do as of now is create another if statement, and we're going to be checking to the callback message length so that when we separate to check the argument, to check if the proper command prefix was set, that we don't crash because there was only one and it has to at least have an index of 2 to work. And you could try it without this, and then have your bot crash to prove what I mean. Oops, dot length. Anyway, if you don't have this, your bot will crash if someone simply sends the command prefix. My command prefixes are exclamation points, so if someone were to just send a blank, hey blank exclamation point, and this wasn't here, it would cause the next statement to crash. So create another if statement. This is a statement that would crash if we didn't check the callback message length and someone were to send a blank, or rather just the command prefix. So what we do is callback dot message dot remove one character, or rather from an index of 1 equals exclamation point. So what this will do is it will check to see if, okay, so now we have a new command, or rather a new chat message. We want to see if it's a command. So if this were to be here, this if statement would then remove everything from index 1, which is right here, in between the exclamation point, the first character, and the second character. So then it would remove everything from the exclamation point onwards. And then you would be left with the exclamation point, which it then checks. If someone were to send a message like, hey, it would then remove everything from index 1 onward, and then you would just have an H, and then this statement would fail because it's not a command. So what we need to do is to create a new string variable to hold the supposed command. This is so that we can later separate the command from its arguments. So then this would eventually be equal to, so that we can use it in the switch statement that we're going to use later on. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, and I will explain it in better detail. So then we need to check to see if the message contains a space, so that we can then remove everything after it, so that we can check the command. So if callback.message.contains this is supposed to be a character, but it can be a string, so I won't mess with it. So we're checking to see if it contains a space, and if it does contain a space, we want to remove everything after that space, so that we can just get the bare bones command so that this becomes this, so that we can again check the command against a switch statement. How we're going to accomplish this is command equals callback dot message dot remove, and then we're going to use something fancy that is very helpful in string operations called callback dot message dot remove, or callback dot index of. What this does is it finds obviously the index of a specified character, and that specified character we want is a space, because that's the separator we're going to be using. So this space and everything onward would be gone, so that this would be left. And then after this if statement is completed, or if it wasn't executed in the first place because it was just a simple command like help, which doesn't contain a space, if we didn't check it first and we executed this anyway, the program would crash because it can't have a start index of 0, which is returned whenever it can't find something. Okay, so now we're going to implement the switch statement that we were talking about. So what you do is literally type switch and then command, and then some braces. A switch statement is basically a cascaded if statement. So instead of writing if x equals y, and then else if z x equals c, we simply do this. And so on and so forth. This is, like I was explaining, a cascaded if statement, but it makes things so much easier. So then the first command, or rather the one of two commands we're going to be implementing today, is the send command, which sends a bot message. Anyway, it sends a bot message, or rather it would send a chat message, to any of your friends that you specify, that are, of course, on the bot's friend list. So we create, first we need to check to see if it's the command we want. Now just give me a second to check my notes. Okay. So right now, we're going to come out of this for a second and create a separator which separates the command from its arguments, so that each argument is an index in an array, which I will demonstrate in a second. Sorry about that. So type public static string, my bad, and then name it separate, and then int number. I'll explain these in a second. Char separator, and then string the string, and then put some brackets. This is the number of arguments -1 that we'll be expecting. So if something has 2 arguments, we'll put 1 here, because it'll be based on a space or whatever you put inside the separator. So, alright, friend, see the space, Sid64. There are technically 2 arguments here, the command and the first argument. As you can see, there's only 1 space separating them, so this would be the number of arguments, which is 2, -1 is equal to the amount of spaces. Okay, so return -1. So if our function fails, we will be able to do something about it. Or rather, this is wrong. So create a new string array called returned, and don't set it to anything other than a new string array with 4 spaces, or rather 5, because the index is 0. So what you want to do is, if any of your arguments, say, has 6 commands, you'll want to put a 5 here, because it can then hold 6 arguments. So then we're going to create a counter variable, int I equals 0, and then we're going to create an error variable to check for errors, obviously, later on while we're iterating through the string. And then a length variable, which is equal to the string dot length. This is again for the iterations. Then we're going to create one of those magical statements called a for each, which basically does this: char c in the string. So for every single character, starting from the first one here, it's going to iterate through this loop, and we do what we want based on this. So yeah, just look it up online if I haven't explained it all that well. I'm very sorry. I'm kind of out of it. So we're going to check to see if the number of arguments expected has been reached yet, which is this iteration variable, is that every time it finds an argument, it's going to increment this variable, and then we're going to compare it to the number of times. So if I is not equal to the number, do this. And then we're going to do is check to see if the number of arguments expected wasn't reached, or if too many were received. So if error is larger than length, or number is bigger than 5. So if this gets incremented on every single iteration, if it iterates too many times or too few times, it'll let us know and throw an error. So then we're going to set the inside here, an error has now been thrown. So what we want to do is set is return returned. But first we want to set returned 0, which is the first index, equal to -1. This is so that we can check the first argument to see if it's -1, and then tell the bot to tell the user that some form of error occurred, such as giving the user the syntax of the command, because they obviously didn't enter it in correctly. Okay, so then create an else if the character that we are now on, such as here, is equal to the separator. And if that is true, we want to chop off everything after the separator, and then set the current arguments equal to that. So what we do is return the current iteration. So the first index is now going to be the first argument, and the first index right now is 0. So returned equals the string dot remove the string dot index of, again, that thing is wonderful, s. So it's going to set the oops, sorry, this is C. Then it's going to set returned of, say, like 0 equal to, returned of 0 equal to friend, and that's going to chop off everything after it. So if this is ifriend sid64, everything after it would be gone. And then the array would equal that. This is nice because this does not actually affect the string itself. It just sets a new variable equal to what the string would look like if this operation were to occur on it. So then we need to do something else. We need to remove the current argument that we just set the array equal to. The string.remove 0. We're going to start from the very beginning of the string, and then the string.index of c, and then +1. So now, assuming that the string was originally equal to ifriend sid64, it is now going to be equal to sid64 without this space, because the index would be the one before it, as you can see. So assuming it's the separator and this is the space, the index would be right here before the space. So that's why we put the +1 here, so that everything before it goes away. And this is to prevent multiple arguments. This is to prevent something like this. args0 equals ifriend, and then args1 equals ifriend sid64. And then we're going to increment the counter, which is going to exit this loop if the number of arguments expected has been reached. So then we're going to increment the error variable, because we've just iterated, and then check to see if error is, again, bigger than, if error equals length and I is not equal to number. So what this would do is, if we've iterated throughout the entire string and the number of arguments expected, this is the entire string. So since error increments after every loop, this would eventually be equal to the length. And then this would check to see if the number of arguments expected has been reached. If they haven't been reached, and error is now equal to the length of the string, we set returned 0 equals -1, so that we can again send the syntax to the user telling them you did this wrong and here's how you should do it. So then we're going to return the array. So after this, we're going to put an else statement. Where if the number of arguments has been reached, so if I is now equal to the number, we're going to return the last part of the string. So once I is iterated, something like this would occur. ifriend sid64 is now equal to sid64 because the iteration has been completed and it is now equal to the number of arguments expected, -1. So then we're left with this, and then we want to return this. So that's what we do. We return the the last part of the string. Again, experiment and see why this is the way to go, and why normally you will want to go this way so that nothing goes funky. and it doesn't return the last part of your string. I'm sorry, again, if I'm very spacey or, just seem out of it, but, very, very busy. So then we're going to return our array after the for each loop. So after the for each loop is completed, we will definitely want to return the array that we have just worked so hard to fill with the arguments. So now we can ignore this, because it is definitely in working condition, and we can use it. So the send command is kind of complicated, I suppose. Actually, it is kind of fairly complicated, but it shouldn't be too bad. First, we want to set args. Oh, that's right. That's what I forgot to do. We need to create a string array. Let me check my notes. That's wrong. So actually what I did to solve this particular issue was to make it a global variable. I know it's not exactly the best coding practice, but it does make things so much easier. That's what I did wrong, my bad. String args. So now that we've created a string array, we want to fill it. Now, a simple and very easy way to fill it with the arguments is to set our array equal to this array, which is basically doing this. We're going to be expecting 3 arguments, because the syntax of this command is going to be I send friend name, and then message. So as you can see, 3 arguments, 2 spaces, so 3 minus 1 is 2. So we're going to tell separate that we're going to be expecting 3 arguments, but we're going to put 2 because it's arguments minus 1. And then the separator we're going to be using, which is a space, and then the string that we'll be using, which is callback.message. So this is going to populate args 0 with send arguments args1 equal to friend name, args2, or rather 3, equal to the message that we want to be sent. And then the rest of the array, args 3 to 4, are null, because we didn't set them to anything inside separate, because we are only expecting 3 arguments. Yeah. So we're going to inform the bot owner that someone is using the send command. So what we're going to do is console.writeLine. Later on, we're going to be able to make a colorful console so that's easier to see errors and information. But for now, we're just going to use the plain old boring generic console writeLine. And it's going to be send, because we already know that it's going to be a send command, plus args1 plus args2. and then command and received user. Then we're going to tell the bot owner which user attempted this command, plus Steam friends dot get friend persona name callback dot sender. So this is a Steam ID. This gets the name of the Steam ID, the owner of the Steam ID rather. So an example was if, say, I were to send the isend command, this would appear in the console. Send somebody, hello person, command received, user 29A, father, Foxy. This is what it would appear inside the console if I were to send an isend command, or an exclamation point send command. So after we've performed the bot owner, we are now going to check to see if there was an error. So as in this function, we set an error code. So we set the first argument equal to -1. So if that were to occur, if an error occurred inside separate, we would send the person who attempted the command an error message, or just plain old syntax of how to use the command. And then we exit the switch statement because we don't want to try the rest of this with faulty arguments. So what we're going to do now is create a for loop. Is it for int I equals 0. This is basically what we did. Never mind. So we're going to iterate through our entire friends list. Oops. So we're going to create a for loop is that for every friend in our friends list with this index, so friend 0, say it would be like Bob, and then friend 1 would be Johnny or something. I don't know what your friends are called, but that's how it would work. So then we need to create more brackets and then create a Steam ID class so that we can get the friends Steam ID and then perform actions based on that, such as sending them a chat message. So we would send it equal to Steam friends dot get friend by index I. And this is actually get friends count, or get friend count. So this would be then, say Steam friends dot get friend by index 0 was equal to, let's say it was Bob, but Bob's Steam ID is this. This is what the get friends by index does, is it returns Steam IDs, not actual names. Which is why this works. So then we do this. If Steam friends dot get friend persona name, which turns the Steam ID into an actual name of friend, as you can see it requires Steam ID, dot to lower. And this is to make it easier, so that it's not case sensitive anymore. .toLower.contains argument 1, which is the friend name, as you can see. Or rather, this is argument 2, so. Anyway. .toLower. Again, this is removing case sensitivity to make people's lives easier. And we like to make people's lives easier. So then, again, more brackets, and then Steam friends send chat message of friend, which is the Steam ID, because this takes a Steam ID, not an actual name, and then each chat entry type, chat message, and then arguments 2, which is the message we want sent. So that actually wraps it up for our send command. As a quick recap, this grabs all the arguments, this informs the bot owner of what's happening, this checks to see if there's an error, and this iterates through every single one of your friends in your friends list, gets their Steam ID, converts their Steam ID into a name, removes case sensitivity, and compares it to argument 1. So this .contains means that I could have a friend named Bob Dylan, and I could do I send Bob message, or I send Bob, or rather Dylan message, and this would both go to Bob Dylan. This is again to make people's lives easier. And then that about wraps it up, and we're going to now test it. Let me think if I can remember my bot name. So we're connecting to Steam, yada yada yada, stuff we've already gone through. And then I'm going to talk to it. So I'm going to send it a faulty command, just I send. Yeah, I named all my bots after myself because I use these commands, as alternate accounts as well. So as you can see, the number of arguments wasn't expected, so it threw an error and then sent us the command syntax. So I can then say I send crazy boot hello. As you can see, it's received the command, and it's going to say who's trying to use it. Now, because I send the command by myself, it's going to appear here, of course. But I could do send crazy boot, yada 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 yada, even spaces, yada 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 yada. So there you have it. We could actually, we're gonna go over one more command before we're done here. So what I like to do is encase commands inside of regions, which are neat. So send, and then end region. So you'll see how neat this is. See? It just made our lives easier because we don't have to be staring at this while we're trying to work at something else. So we just have this. So then we create a new case called friends. And then break. So the friends command is extremely basic and very, very similar. Or no, not very similar, but very easy. So what we do is console.writeLine, because we're going to inform the bot owner that something's happening, that someone's trying to use this command. So friends command received user, and then plus Steam friends dot get friend persona name of the person who sent the command. So we already went over that. Then after that, we're going to do the same thing we did for send message, actually, or rather the send command, is we're going to iterate through the entire friends list. And then we're going to create a new Steam ID class, friend equals Steam friends get friend by index of I. So we've already gone over why this works. This would return your first friend's Steam ID, your second friend's Steam ID, your third friend's Steam ID for every iteration of this loop. Oops, I meant to do this. And then Steam friends dot send chat message to the person who used it. And then the friend's name. So we do friend plus Steam friends dot get friend persona name, which converts a Steam ID into a name. Friend and then we're going to do something new called a state. So put about 2 spaces or so, state, and then plus. What this does is it gets the friend state such as online or offline or away, and then we're just going to let the user know of what the state of the current friend is. Plus Steam friends get friend persona state Steam friend. So there you have it. That's the friends command. It's extremely simple. You can modify it however you like, really. For example, if you don't want to spam the user, you can create a string builder and then just make it one giant string of friends and then send it in bulk in one message. Okay. So now we're going to use the friends command. So, as you can see, the bot just gave me its entire friends list in the state of people. So its friends called Guard, Sega, Crazy Boot, that's me, and my other bot, and their states. So Guard's offline, Sega's offline, I'm online obviously, and my other bot is not online right now. So there you have it. I'm sorry if I did a poor job of explaining things, but again, I'm very stressed and very tired. Put what you need help with in the comments, and I'll do my best to help out. So thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want more, I guess, and have a nice day.